how to build muscle fast as a student. You see, I became hooked on muscle building when I was 15 years old in a boarding school. I just happened to stumble upon some weights in my teacher's garden and I started lifting weights. And within days, I could see my biceps were popping. And I thought, oh my God, this is amazing. So I became hooked on to muscle building. And then when I left school, I became a nurse. I trained as a nurse. And when I was training, when I was a student nurse, I had a room. There's one of the rooms in the nurse's home didn't have a sink in it. So the home warden just gave it to me. I bought a weight bench. I bought some weights. I bought one of those old rickety weeder benches and he had a lap pull down. I spent half my, salary as a student nurse buying that 1 month. And then the room was, I had 3 weights. I think I had about 80 kilos in total. Weights, I had to put it together myself and, take it apart, 5 kilo plates, and I did that. And within days, I could see myself growing. I am a gym owner. When I left school, I became a nurse, like I said. Then after nursing, I became a bodybuilder because that was my goal. I wanted to become a bodybuilder. I just wanted to own a gym and train people because I was fascinated by the process. So I finished bodybuilding, and when I finished nursing, I became a bodybuilder. I made my way all the way to the top. I was the British #1 bodybuilder for a while. I was the British #1 bodybuilder, Mr. Britain at the time. And then after that, I just trained as a pro bodybuilder. I was doing personal training, working as a doorman, just so that I could make my way to the Olympia stage. I made my way to the Mr. Olympia stage. I stood next to Ronnie Coleman. I stood next to Cutler. I stood next to some of the top bodybuilders in the world. I knew I was not the best, but the idea was to get on the stage to use it as impetus to open my gym. That was it. And then when I finished, I decided to buy a gym. So I bought a gym and started training bodybuilders. That was my passion. I trained a lot of bodybuilders back in the day. And about 10 years ago, that's what I did. And then eventually, I saw the transition from training people face to face. I never did any online training people face to face, to everything going online. So I used to ask my athletes come and see me every single week. So they traveled from all over the country, sometimes abroad. I had athletes from Sweden, I had athletes from Spain, from Italy. They all came to see me in my little gym in the Hemel and I trained them. I used to get them ready for competitions. I had a team called Team Savage. We were doing really well. And then everything changed. Everything went online. So slowly you saw, these youngsters coming in, being told, oh, you can do the same thing, eating ultra-processed foods. You see, what I learned about muscle building back in the day, it's not what is available now. And I'm here to show you exactly what I learned back in the 80s. And I'm telling you, I built muscle so quickly. Within a month, I could see a massive big change. So if you're watching this video, please stay to the end because you can fast forward it and see the meal plan that I'll give you at the end, but that's not going to explain exactly how to stick to the meal plan. So please watch it to the end because you'll understand exactly what I'm trying to say. I decided to find out more about bodybuilding. Back then, all the magazines were not owned by these supplement companies who were just pushing all their products. Everything that we ate was real food. In fact, my first coach, Johnny Fuller, who advised me, was a very prominent British bodybuilder. He also competed at the Olympia, I think in the 70s. Johnny Fuller was making me drink it before bed. We're chewing desiccated liver tablets. We're eating eggs like it was going out of fashion. And that's how we built muscle because we understood about the nutrients, not just the calories. Because now you see people say you're going to be in a calorie deficit. It's all nonsense. That means that you're actually eating foods that are things that are not food. But you're assuming that your body's going to break them down and use. Remember, it's not really the amount of food that you need. Obviously, you need a certain amount of food, yes. I'm going to show you later on, but you also need the nutrients because you need protein and nutrients, to build muscle. There's so many nutrients that you'll be lacking if you're just counting calories and just eating in your crap. So now I see youngsters coming to the gym. You see, I stopped coaching bodybuilders now because I couldn't understand how easy it was for the people who are coming down to the gym to be convinced to, change from eating real food to eating all this junk food. And slowly I saw the transition. And with that transition came all the mental health problems for these youngsters who were coming in, all the skin conditions, all the digestive problems with these kids. I'm like, dude, do you know that it's because of what you eat? Oh, no. They're because somebody else is showing them online who looks the same way, who's also on the drugs, of course. But the way I'm showing you now, you can actually build muscle without even thinking of taking one single steroid. Because I didn't take steroids back in the day, until I didn't take steroids until I was in my late 20s. Because where I was trying to get to, I realized that I had to. Otherwise, I build muscle easily. And I'm telling you, the easiest way to build muscle is the way I'm going to show you. Nobody's going to tell you this in the fitness industry because most people are trying to sell you whey protein, all that nonsense. We didn't have that kind of stuff. We built muscle using real food, real single ingredient food. I always tell this story where one of my coaches saw me in at the cinema with my wife and my daughter. And I was basically just eating popcorn. It was off season. I wasn't even getting ready for competition. And he went mad. He said, "Why would you eat that crap? You're supposed to be a bodybuilder, and bodybuilding is synonymous with single ingredient foods, real foods, getting nutrients in." Bodybuilding was synonymous with cooking as well and eating proper food. But unfortunately, everything changed. Everything became convenient. So you saw gyms selling cereal bars, and you saw people eating all these crappy protein products, protein bars, protein yogurts, everything that has got high protein on it. It's not food. You think you're actually building muscle, but in reality, your body's having to struggle really hard to deal with the chemicals in that particular product. So when you get protein bagel, if you're eating that, I personally think you're stupid because there's no way your body's going to absorb protein from a flipping bagel. High protein is a marketing word. It doesn't mean anything. The particular foods that are written high protein, when you eat them, your body's going to struggle. Your body's going to have problems breaking it down. And they contain chemicals like emulsifiers, stabilizers, artificial sweetness, and so many different types of sugar. But because you don't know that, you think that's what it's supposed to be because that's what everybody says in the fitness industry. That's what everybody says. But I'm not saying that. I'm telling you that there's a certain way of building muscle very quickly and healthily if you listen to what I'm saying and eat the proper food. You see, the diet that I learned back in the day was called the fat burns fat diet. So right now we've been told, to build muscle, you need a certain amount of carbohydrates and carbs, initiate. It's all nonsense. I'm telling you this an easier way. Now, you don't have to listen to what I'm saying. You don't have to believe me. I want you to try it because part of being intelligent is using your intellect to be able to find things out for yourself. Just think laterally. Stop thinking concretely. Oh no, this works, this works. It might work, but I'm telling you, there's a much easier way. It's a much healthier way. When you're trying to build muscle and you keep walking around and feel terrible every time you drink those powders, eat those products, you got a bloated belly. That's your body not breaking the food down properly. So you're actually slowing down your muscle building. You can build muscle a lot quicker than you are now. And right now, I'm here to show you the easiest way to build muscle. You're not going to have any joint pain when you eat the way I'm asking you to eat. You're not going to have any digestive problems when you eat this way. We're not going to have any mental health problems. Now we know about the gut-brain axis. What's going on in here? It's also going on in here. And also going on your skin. We know about the gut-skin axis. So if you're building muscle, in my gym, I see these kids coming in eating all these bagels after training, and then they got Nutella and all of that post-workout, and you look at they got bad skin, and you tell them, we know about the gut-skin axis. What's going on in your gut? It's going on in your skin. So be aware that mainstream advice in the fitness industry, it's all nonsense and it's dangerous. And you may not get the adverse effects of them straight away. Even if you're not getting spots, even if you're not getting digestive problems, even if you're not getting, mental health problems from eating all that crap, you will still pay for it later on if it's something that you eat all the time. Have you noticed that recently, every so often a bodybuilder dies and somebody says, oh, it must be the vaccine? It's all nonsense. It's not. Most bodybuilders now are no different from the person who is super obese, the person who is unhealthy, because they're eating junk food and they're eating too many meals, they're eating high carbohydrate foods, and that's on top of that, they're taking steroids. We took steroids, but we made sure that what we ate were just single ingredient foods. We didn't go out of our way to just pile the calories in. It wasn't about calories. We knew we needed a certain amount of protein, but that was about it. A certain amount of fat, a certain amount of protein. But when it came to calories, it's all nonsense that you just get the calories in. We're not machines. Human beings are not closed systems. We are human beings. We are governed by hormones. So a lot of bodybuilders take insulin all the time. Does it make sense to you? You're eating foods like high carbohydrate foods, the body is constantly releasing insulin. And at the same time, you're taking insulin. I did the same thing. And that's why I ended up with panic attacks. That's why I ended up with peripheral neuropathy, sleep apnea, joint pain. All of it was because I had poor gut health and I was hyperinsulinemic. That's because of the way we were advised to eat, eating the 6 meals a day. Because I learned something completely different that I'm going to show you very shortly. In the early 80s, what I learned is something completely different from what you guys are learning now. Because I learned that in the early 80s, then I threw that away. I went to the lean protein and carbohydrates route. You can't build the muscle. I got to where I wanted to get to, but I felt lousy. Like I said, all those things came in, sleep apnea, panic attacks, peripheral neuropathy. I was insulin resistant. I had high blood pressure. I had everything that was wrong with me. And that was because of what I was eating. See, I wish I'd stuck to what I'm going to show you now, because that's exactly the quickest and the most effective way to build muscle. To build muscle, you need insulin. Insulin helps you build muscle. You need insulin to be working efficiently. When you're eating high carbohydrate meals and so many meals in the day, when you're doing that, your insulin level is still high. You've got something called hyperinsulinemia. And on top of that, if you're eating junk food, eating all this ultra-processed nonsense with stabilizers, artificial sweetness and all that nonsense, you got poor gut health. And those two. And then you're compounding that with the steroid taking. You're hitting your body from so many different angles. That's why most of you have got weak immune systems. To build muscle, one thing we understood in the early 80s was that we needed a strong immune system to build muscle. You see, muscle building, when you go to the gym, you're not building anything. You're actually tearing the muscle. They're called micro tears. They form across the muscle, and then the body has to repair that and then improve on it. That's it. We're just making the body work. To do that, you need to create the environment for that to happen. Now, the environment is not eating junk food. The environment, not eating 10 meals, 6 meals a day with high carbohydrates. There's a better way, that will work, but you're actually doing yourself a disservice. You're slowing down your process and you're putting your health in danger. Now, I'm going to show you exactly the diet that I was given in the early 80s that worked. When I built the most amount of muscle without taking a single drug, it's this diet. Now, I'm going to show you. So there you go. So I always suggest that when you get up in the morning, if you can, don't eat straight away. Wait maybe about a couple of hours before you have your first meal. And then your first meal, this is what I suggest, is based on how much muscle you're trying to build and whether you're male or female. So between 3 and 6 eggs for your first meal. And then with that, you can have 1 avocado, 40 grams of cheese. Now, I'll put figures here because everybody wants figures. But it doesn't matter. You can have more cheese. You can have more avocado. It doesn't actually matter because we're trying to use fatty acids instead of just mainly carbohydrates. When you eat like this, the way I'm going to show you, you become insulin sensitive and you become fat adapted. When you're fat adapted, it means your body is able to use the fatty acids to build your muscle as well. You don't just need only carbs to build muscle. You can actually use both carbohydrates and fatty acids. And I'm trying to show you how. Look, if you think I'm crazy, just try this for a month. Please, if you're going to do this, don't go eating Haribos and eating sugar because we're trying to keep your insulin level down. When you eat like this, you're keeping your insulin levels down. That means you become insulin sensitive. That means insulin is able to build you the muscle a lot faster. So the first meal, like I said, between 3 to 6 eggs. I was trying to build a lot of muscle, so I used to have about 8 eggs for the first meal. And then with that, I can have cheese, can even have olives. But I put this there just to start it off. I found that I'd have cheese, eggs, and I scrambled it with cheese, like scrambled eggs, and it's quite nice. So that's the first meal. And then maybe 3 or 4 hours later, because remember, we're trying to get the quantity of food in. I refuse to say calories, but yes, the calories, but we're not counting calories here. We're trying to get your body to use these nutrients. And the amount of muscle you're trying to build depends, obviously, the amount of food that you want to eat and the number of meals that you want to have. So I put 4 meals here. You can even do it 3 meals, depending on how much muscle you're trying to build. So this is what I give to my clients. Right now, they're thriving on the diet like this. It's amazing. So the second meal, but I said 3 or 4 hours later, you have 3 to 6 chicken thighs. Make sure the skin is on there. And if you're going to use things like condiments, make sure there's no sugar in it. We're trying to keep away from sugar. And if you're eating chicken, cook your own chicken, because when you buy the chicken now, it's already cooked from the supermarket. It's got dextrose and brown sugar. That's not good. We don't want sugar. Remember, we're trying to keep your insulin level down. And the way you keep your insulin level down is by reducing the amount of sugar that's going through your mouth daily. So there you go. There. You got 40 grams of nuts. Now you got the chicken thighs there with the skin on. Remember, cook it can have spices, seasoning, but even with spices, make sure that there's no sugar in it, because sugar is what you're trying to avoid. That's important. If you avoid sugar, you become insulin sensitive. Right, so, and then you've got 40 grams of nuts here. The nuts, I always say the pecans, walnuts, macadamia, almonds, these are good. This diet, especially for students, if you're a student and you say, I'm constantly broke, you're a student, this is really good for you. It's cheap because you can get a lot of eggs for a decent amount of money. You can get chicken thighs and chicken wings for a decent amount of money. So remember, you want the fat. So chicken thighs, chicken wings is so good. And then have the skin on, obviously. Eat the skin. Remember, eat the skin. And then with that, you can have 40 grams of nuts, 40 grams of cheese. You can even have one avocado is a fat choice, and then with that, you can have some cruciferous vegetables. This is what I did in the early 80s. This is when I built most amount of muscle without taking a single drug. So there, early 80s. Now, that's meal 2. Now, meal 3 is 20% fat beef mince. Remember, between 120, 200 cooked weight. Remember, this is cooked weight. Now, when you cook it, make sure you're not adding all that nonsense to it. You can add, like I said, some spices here, can have some salt. Obviously, make sure there's a decent amount of salt because you need sodium for muscle contraction. Make sure that you have salt on your food. So 20% beef mince or lamb mince. You can even have pork. It's entirely up to you. There's so many different meats that you can have, but make sure there's high fat. Now, with that, you can have the fat choice again. It can be any of these, 40 grams of cheese, 1 avocado, 40 grams of nuts. Remember, the figures don't matter. And then, or you can have between 10 and 60, 18 olives here. Then cruciferous vegetables. And then 4th meal. Remember, if you're trying to build a lot of muscle, I was trying to build a lot of muscle, so I had more. Sometimes I'd have up to about 300 grams of cooked beef mince, or I'd have, 8 chicken thighs, and I'll have 8 eggs. So it's the amount that you're eating corresponds with how much muscle you're trying to build. But this is a decent enough for somebody who's trying to build a decent amount of muscle, especially over the summer. If you want to look good on the beach, this is something that you need. Just follow this from now and you see how good you look in the summer. So meal 4, same as meal 1, 2, and 3. So you can have meal 1 again for meal 4, or you can have meal 2 for meal 4. Now, somebody will say, oh, that's expensive, but think about it logically though. Think about it. Instead of buying those protein powders and all that nonsense, they cost money. This is cheap. You can get chicken thighs or chicken drumsticks really cheap from a supermarket. You can get cheese, a big block of cheese, and eat that. You can get the nuts, get a big bag of nuts. Vegetables are quite cheap. If you have to beg your parents, look, I want to build muscle, and show them this, because this helps you build muscle a lot quicker. Now, the thing that you need to do is that I say eat like this for about 4 weeks. Don't put any carbs with it for a while, and then after 4 weeks, because I believe that within 4 weeks you become a bit more insulin sensitive, a bit more fat adapted. Fat adaptation means your body is able to get energy from both fats and carbohydrates, because we're trying to use both fatty acids and carbohydrates to build muscle. So after 4 weeks, I find that most people, especially because I've been using this method for a while, most people are fat adapted within 4 weeks of doing this. So within 4 weeks, when your body has learned how to get energy from fats as well as carbohydrates. Remember, how you know it? It's because you won't feel hungry at all. You should never feel hungry. You should never feel tired. You should be in the gym, training, with energy. If you feel like there is no energy, you've got no energy, you're failing at the gym, there's no food here. If you're failing at the gym, there is something on here that's raising your blood sugar and raising your insulin levels. Remember, when there's insulin in your blood, your body is not going to burn the fat. It's going to use the fat as its energy source. It's going to ask you for more glucose. That's why you'll be tired. That's why you crave. That's why you're hungry. So you shouldn't be hungry. You shouldn't be tired. You shouldn't crave anything. You shouldn't be thinking, oh my God, I feel a bit peckish. You shouldn't. You shouldn't want a snack. If you eat like this and then you need a snack, it is because something is raising your blood sugar. Something is raising your insulin levels. You've got to be aware of it. Now, after 4 weeks, when you become fat adapted and you find that you've got your body is able to burn fats as well as carbohydrates, you can start introducing some carbs for training. When you put the carbs in, when I first did this, I felt like soup, man. I put the carbs in, a bit of sweet potato, cooked weight. I put between 100 and 150 grams cooked weight. Sweet potato, I took the skin off. Without the skin, it's important without the skin. So I put that in, and I felt like soup, man. My energy level shot. You see, if you put that in and your energy level dips, that means you're not fat adapted. You should start thinking differently. There's something on your plate. And please don't assume, oh, I'm going to buy my chicken already cooked, rotisserie chicken. Now you buy from the supermarket. They've all got other stuff in there you don't want. If you buy the cheese from the supermarket that's already grated, it will have things like, maize starch with it. That's sugar. If you buy the olives from the supermarket, the ones that they're stuffed with seed oils and some other crap, that will raise your blood sugar as well. So whatever you do, make sure something on your plan is not raising your blood sugar. That's a mistake a lot of people make. They say, I tried, it didn't work, I feel faint. Well, there are hundreds of other people benefiting from it. The reason why it's not working for you is because something is interfering with you accessing, the fat to use as energy. Remember, the body can also use fatty acids as well as carbohydrates to build muscle. You don't have to rely on just carbs, because I learned both ways. And sadly, I stuck to the 6 meals a day most of my bodybuilding life. It's only when I finished I said, oh my God, I learned a more efficient way. Now I eat 2 meals a day because I'm not trying to build anything. I'm trying to maintain. I eat 2 meals a day. So I eat 1 or 2 of these meals and I feel amazing. I feel the best I've ever felt. I'm able to hold on to 100 kilos of a bit of muscle. I'm 60 years old. I'm not trying to build any more muscle. I'm not trying to be any heavier. I've got nothing to prove to anybody. I'm not going to compete again. So I don't look like this for vanity. I can actually drop weight, but I don't want to. I like holding on to a bit of muscle. So there you go. This is a simple way of just building muscle. Like I said, if you think I'm crazy, just try this. Try and understand what I'm trying to say. If you're hungry, if you're tired, if you're craving any of that, there's something on your plate causing that. Don't say to me, I tried this and I went down to the gym and I felt I had no energy. If you have no energy and you're carrying a bit of body fat, even the leanest person is carrying about 30 pounds of fat, which is over 100,000 calories. You shouldn't feel hungry if you're eating food. If you're eating food, if you feel hungry or you're craving anything, your energy is dipped, it's because something on your plate is causing your blood sugar to rise. And be aware that it's usually something that you're probably not aware of. You shouldn't feel like this. I train fasted. I eat my first meal at 4 o'clock and I've got so much energy, my strength not gone down. I feel great. So there you go. There's energy. Remember, there's 9 calories in a gram of fat. There's 4 calories in a gram of carbs. So it's a no-brainer. If you learn how to tap into your fat, the reason why you're carrying fat, you're eating fat, and you're still flailing at the gym, you're still tired, you're not lifting heavy, you can't lift what you normally lift, is because something on your plate. I've said it so many times, something on your plate. If you're feeling tired, you're struggling with this, something on your plate is causing that. Try and find out what it is and take it out. Like I said, it could be anything. It could be the seasoning that you're using. Some people use seasoning. I know somebody who's eating paprika. It had sugar in it. You know, a lot of the seasoning that you got, somebody bought this jar, but can I use that jar? I looked at the second ingredient. What's sugar? I'm like, do you realize? No, I didn't realize that. Don't take things for granted. Whatever you're doing, make sure that there's no sugar on your plate. That's important. Doesn't matter how small the amount is. That is going to interfere with your insulin secretion, it's going to interfere with your blood sugar, and you're going to find that you will struggle to stick to this plan. So please take a screenshot and then follow it. And then when you've done that for a while, leave a comment below under this video and let's see how you're getting on. Good luck and thank you for watching. If you've reached the end of this video, it means you're serious about your health and fitness. If you didn't know, I've got a private community where I do live coaching, in-depth video modules, and other resources. Click the link in the description to check it out and join thousands of others who've benefited. See you there.